Hey guys, welcome in. It's Brad with College SportsCast. We are here tonight to do a special show for you. If we don't have our guest, we'll do our regular show for you. But hopefully, we will have Johnathon Davis, former Wildcat, with us tonight and do a special show for you guys.
Can I please have your attention?
There's all a commotion around here.
What are you talking about?
Let them yap at you.
It's actually very exciting.
Hey guys, welcome back. It is Brad with College Sportscast. I've got John Hammonds here with me tonight. What's up, Hammonds?
What's up, man?
So we have a special guest with us, and he showed up just as I was starting the show. So we do have our special guest with us. Ex-Wildcat Johnathon Davis is with us tonight. So let's bring him up. Hey, Johnathon, how are you?
I'm good, sir. About yourself?
We're doing good. We're excited to have you on our show, and we appreciate you being with us tonight.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
So this is College Sportscast. I'm going to do one thing real quick before we kind of get started. We are growing and growing on Facebook. We are also on YouTube and other things as well. But if you are with us on Facebook, you can help support us by sending stars. It helps us earn money to make more content. Or you can subscribe to us now as well on our Facebook College Sportscast page. It's only 99 cents a month. It's an absolute bargain of the year. Nothing else is 99 cents a month. I can guarantee you that. So, you can help support us, and it helps us to make money so we can continue to make content for you guys. All right, Johnathon. So we are excited to have you on our show tonight, and we want to welcome you.
Thank you.
So, a few weeks ago, it's been a few weeks ago now, you had a kind of a long reply, and we'll get into that later, but that's how we contacted you, as you had kind of a long reply on one of John Hammonds' posts. Do you remember that?
I replied on a lot of posts a few weeks ago because, as you know, we had a lot of interest, a lot of things going on here as far as the new coaching situation. So I don't remember exactly what I wrote, but I had a lot to say. I do remember that, so I probably got the gist of it.
Yeah. Well, we'll kind of get into it as the show goes on, but I just wanted to ask you if you remembered it right off the bat, because that's how we kind of reached out to you. And we appreciate you.
Yeah.
Being on. So again, the College Sportscast, I have it up on the screen now. Should be. So hey, it's not coming up. There it is. So Johnathon played from 1988 to 1991. Is that correct, Johnathon?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. Just want to make sure I got my stats right here.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, Johnathon, to get started, you were recruited and played for Eddie Sutton in 1988.
Yes.
So I want to go kind of all the way back. You were part of a class, and you were there when lots of scandal and everything else went on. But I wanted to ask you to start with about your recruitment And what do you remember about your recruitment with Eddie Sutton?
I guess if you're going to go all the way back, I want to remind the folks that are listening that when I came to Kentucky, I came in as part of the #1 recruiting class in the country. So my whole experience with being a Kentucky Wildcats started off at the very top of the mountaintop. But I also have the very, I guess, unique distinction of being part of a situation where, the very next year we were decimated. Probation came in and things that happened to the program that had nothing at all to do with me or any of the kids that I played with. But as you know, we had 2 years of probation. We had a lot of other things behind the scenes that were taken away from us, and including our dignity, as kids, because we didn't really know what this all was about really at the time. So having that experience though, coming in as part of the #1 recruiting class in the country, that was the impetus behind my feelings on how we gotten so far away from what Kentucky was under Calipari. No disrespect to Coach Calipari, respect a lot. Really, really appreciate what he did at the time he did it. When he came in, Cal was the guy that we needed at that time. But things just transpired. Over time. It's like a marriage. Sometimes folks grow in different directions. He was growing in one direction, but Kentucky basketball was growing in it wasn't supposed to be growing in a different direction. We are a different entity. We're not concerned with draft picks. We're not concerned with even winning ball games. Our whole thing's about winning championships. That's why I came to Kentucky, was to be a part of that winning culture. I don't know if you read my Facebook post from a couple of days ago, but I ran into my first college roommate, Winston Bennett, and he was a lot of people don't know this about him. He was an extremely disciplined person, to the respect that my very first morning I woke up after my first day on campus. First one, and I woke up, I jump out of bed, get ready to go downstairs for breakfast. He's like, whoa, where you going there, buddy? He made me make my bed up.
Yeah.
Think about this, a small thing, but it's a big thing. When you get up in the morning,
Right.
the first thing you should do is make your bed. That's the start of the day. And he taught me that those small things is what creates, the big results that we have. And that was something that, again, passed down from player, to player to player. That's what Kentucky is about. It's about a culture of not just winning, but of championships, of excellence. And we got away from that over the past 4 or 5 years. It's been very frustrating as a former player and as a fan to watch what we became. Winning 27 games, that's great. That's not Kentucky basketball. Winning championships is Kentucky basketball, period. End of sentence.
I agree with you 100%, Jonathan. So your first roommate was Winston Bennett. That had to be an ordeal. Winston was always on time, always, just he was the brand for Kentucky in the 80s from about 84 through 88.
Yes.
And was a big get for Kentucky out of Louisville at the time. Kentucky wasn't getting a lot of Louisville kids back then in those days. So that's a pretty cool story. I wanted to ask you specifically about Shawn Kemp. What do you remember about Shawn Kemp being there? The little scandal that cost him from playing with Kentucky. What all do you really remember about that scandal?
I remember more than probably what I'm willing to share in a public forum. I'm going to tell you what I know and try to leave out names as much as I can. But long story short, there's a story out there that I'm sure everybody's heard. I'm going to tell you what actually happened. Like I said, I was there when it happened. I remember the weekend that it happened. Long story short, there was someone close to the program who was actually in the Wildcat Lodge with us. And Sean Sutton's chain, as you know, Sean Sutton was the coach's son. He had a lot of stuff. He left stuff laying around all the time. He wasn't very careful with this stuff. So he left this chain where somebody could grab it. And this person grabbed the chain. And this person knew that Kemp was going home for the weekend. So this person convinced Shawn Kemp, hey, I got this chain. I just found it. He didn't tell him he stole the chain from another player. This person said, I got this chain. When you go back home, why don't you fence it up in Indiana, up in Elkhart, and they bring him back, my half of the money. Well, Kemp wasn't. I'm not going to disparage anybody, but let's say he wasn't necessarily a brain surgeon. He thought it was a great idea, so he goes back to Indiana. He tries to fence it, but of course, he got caught doing that. But he didn't. My point is this: that he didn't actually steal the chain. Somebody associated with the program gave him the chain. He took it back and sold it. And the reason why that part of the story I can't say out loud is because the person that actually stole the chain knows where a lot of bodies are buried. So it didn't come out then. I don't want to dredge up an old, thing to make it come back out. I don't want to be involved in all that. But let's just say that Sean Kemp wasn't an angel in the story, but he wasn't a thief in the story either. He never stole the chain. And that part of the story, I want people to know that he didn't steal it.
For me at the time, Jonathan, as a 14-year-old kid, I was so looking forward to Sean Kemp and, at Kentucky and being able to play. And that team was supposed to be, like you said, they were the number one class.
We were loaded.
Yeah.
We were so good that,
yeah.
I think,
absolutely.
And if I recall correctly, Jonathan, you had Chris Mills on that team. You had, I believe, was it Derek Miller maybe?
Yeah.
And I think Derek Miller went to Arizona after all that happened, I believe. Or
no, it wasn't Derek. Derek stayed. It was actually LaRon Ellis who went.
It was LaRon Ellis. That's right.
LaRon Ellis left. Yeah, it was Ron Ellis. Yeah. He left and Chris Mills left.
Yeah.
Derek stayed.
Yeah.
But how many ended up? How many actually ended
another
up
name? Another name that hardly anybody ever mentions is Eric Manuel.
Yes.
Did you play with Eric Manuel? You did.
I did, and I'm telling you, that's the saddest story in the world. People forget how good Eric Manuel really was. Eric Manuel, if he was out today, he would have been a one and done player. He was that good. He went from being a one and done player to this thing that happened with the NCAA. Totally destroyed this kid emotionally to where he couldn't perform at that level anymore. I mean, and not just him, all of us were affected in some respect. But like I said, this was a kid that really needed basketball to take him, from very humble beginnings and change, his family's, life. And it didn't work out for him. But again, that story also has not been told correctly. He wasn't the person that cheated on that test. Somebody else did. It wasn't him that did that.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I've heard rumors and stuff, and I'm not going to sit here and try to dig into all that with you. I just wanted to mention a few names. As a kid, I was growing up. Like I said, I was about a 14-year-old kid. At that time, the Kentucky was going to have this special team, for a couple of years. And like you said, Eric Manuel was special. That one season,
one and done talent.
He got to play at Kentucky. And most people nowadays never mention Eric Manuel.
No.
It's just a kid that I remember. I remember being in love with him, and I think he played in the 88 season or 89 season, somewhere in there.
88. Played 1 year.
88 and played 1 year, and he missed the 88-89 season. They made him sit out.
Right. And then they made him ineligible. He ended up playing NIA, I can't say it, NAIA ball for his last 2 years, but he gained a bunch of weight. And like I said, mentally, it affected him so bad mentally, he never could perform at that level again. He just wasn't the same player anymore.
I got a quick question for you, Jonathan. After all that went on, and Eddie Sutton ended up leaving, who was y'all thinking, hey, who's going to come in here and clean this mess up? Because I always tell people all the time. Rick Pitino, if it wasn't for Rick Pitino, Kentucky wouldn't be where they are right now. They wouldn't be, at the level and the height that they are now. And I thank God for Pitino every single day, because I think he saved Kentucky basketball. What was your mind frame going into that year thinking, who can come in here and clean this up?
Actually, at that time, going back to when I was a 18-year-old kid, there was no internet, so we didn't really know about people and coaches the way that we do now. With the internet, you can kind of find out a lot of stuff about people, but at that time, all you knew was what you saw on TV. If you saw somebody play a ball game on a Saturday and you heard the announcers talking about them, or you heard, maybe happened to meet somebody who knew of them, but as far as knowing specifically about people, we didn't know. There were some. I do want to say this though. People forget about this, and that is that Rick was not our first choice. I do know that. I do remember hearing talk
He was
of
not.
at one point Lute Olson was a big target, and we thought
Lute
that Lute
Olson.
Olson might come.
Yes.
And when Lute Olson, when he said no, the next one is somebody people forget about too. He was a big star back then, but he's kind of nobody really talks about him that much anymore. PJ Carlissimo, our second choice.
Yep.
And the reason
PJ Carlissimo, right.
he actually came to Kentucky and, like I said, did the weekend tour. But the reason why he didn't come was because it became very clear to him. They made it very clear to him at this time he wasn't married, and he's a straight man and everything, but he wasn't married, and he really wanted to have a personal life. And then let him know that you wouldn't have a personal life here if you're a single man. You're gonna have every single woman chasing you, after every game, and that wasn't something that he wanted to be in the papers with different women all the time. So that wasn't going to be a match. In New York, you can do that. You coach your game on a Friday and go out. People aren't bothering you. But here, if you're the coach of Kentucky, you're like the president and God all wrapped into one. You can't do anything. Even today,
the spotlight.
Yeah, your spotlight's so bright, you can't do anything here. That's something people don't really understand. You can't do anything. So Rick was third choice. No, he would. You know what? Oh, something else. Sam Newton actually had said that he was at AD. He said, if I can't get this last guy, I'll coach the team. So we thought that Sam's going to be our coach until Rick at the last minute decided he'd take it.
Right.
And all those
I
guys
remember
were being
all of
fine
that.
coaches. I'm sorry, what now?
I remember all of that very vividly. Like I said, I was about a 14, 15-year-old kid when all that happened. Another thing that I remember, so Rick Pitino's first team, if I'm not mistaken, Jonathan, there was only 8 scholarship players. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's what I thought. And most people have no idea about that anymore. And it's hardly ever talked about because, like you said, LaRon Ellis left, Chris Mills left. They made Eric Manuel leave. I can't remember if there was another player or two that left. It seems like there was, if I remember right.
You missed the biggest one. The people forget about this. Rex didn't want to leave. Rex had to go pro. Rex wasn't leaving.
Yeah. Right.
Going anywhere.
But Rex would have been that 88-89 season probably, and not the.
He would have been on the next. He would have stayed. That's what I'm going. That's where I'm going with this. Rex wasn't trying to go pro. Rex had to go pro because the NCAA investigation was going to come on him heavy. They're going to start looking at a lot of stuff. He had to just get out of here.
Well, and if I remember correctly, Reggie Hansen was on that team too, right?
Correct.
Yeah, he was. Yeah,
I think he was one on that stayed.
So he was. So Jonathan here was one of the 8 players that stayed with Kentucky after the probation. And another thing that a lot of people don't realize is this probation banned us from TV for 2 years. So the rest of Jonathan's career, he played 2 years under Pitino. The rest of his career, he wasn't even there.
That's correct.
Was listened to by Kaywood on the radio.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we survived.
What do you remember about that time when you guys were playing ball and you wasn't even on TV?
Well, I mean, when we were playing, not being on TV part wasn't really effective for us because we're the ones actually playing. But I would imagine that from a fan standpoint, not seeing the Wildcats, that would be hard. But we weren't on TV. And like I said, it wasn't something we thought about. And plus, playing for Pitino, he had us so busy, being molded by him that we didn't think about that. It wasn't really a factor. We just did what we had to do. I mean, we stayed, we stuck it out, we stayed, and we went through a lot. I mean, a lot to keep the program together. That was our only thought. keeping it together.
Well,
Yeah.
I got another
I was
question.
there.
I got
Go
another
ahead.
question for you, real quick, Jonathan. What was Pitino when he first come in there, when he was announced coach? What was his words to the team? Just when he sat down Williams and just talked to us, what was the words that he said?
Basically, I mean, in so many words, I mean, told us that we weren't the guys that he wanted. He told us that, you know, as fast as he possibly could, he was going to get his guys in there, but we were all he had right now. I mean, he was not touchy-feely, making us feel good at all. I mean, he tore us all, you know, all down and then built us back up into a
Yep.
team. But he wasn't our buddy.
Mm-mm.
It wasn't fun.
Right.
The end result
And
was fun, but
he
it
was
wasn't fun that we
tough.
did.
Not just he was tough on you guys. That's for sure.
That's
Absolutely.
an
I
understatement.
mean, yeah. I agree with you on that. I mean, you had to go through it. I mean, what were those that first year? You guys wound up 14-14. You had 8 scholarship players. You know, and didn't get to go to the SEC tournament, didn't get to go to the NCAA tournament, wasn't on TV. I mean, how was the ending of that year? I mean, you guys knew from the start that you just had those 28 games and that's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's all we had. Yep.
And I can't remember if it was that year or if it was the next year. You guys played Shaquille O'Neal and Chris Jackson in Rupp Arena, and it was like an overtime game, and we won like 103-102, or it was something crazy. And I remember Reggie Hansen out jumped Shaquille O'Neal for the tip. I'll never forget it. I was there.
Yep. That was the next year.
That was
We beat
that was
them at home.
91.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It was the next year.
Yeah. And you guys beat them at home. And I mean, they were loaded.
They had three All-Americans. They had 3 All-Americans.
Yeah, they were loaded. Yeah. And I guess that would have been.
I think they had I think it was Chris Jackson, Shaquille O'Neal, and then they had Stanley Roberts in the middle.
People forget he was an All-American. He didn't have much of a pro career, but he was a first-team All-American in college.
Yes. People forget that. Exactly. Yep. I mean, they were loaded. Both of them were 7-footers, 7'1".
Yep.
Yeah. And Reggie Hansen, just so you guys know, he played center at 6'7" because that was all they had. Yep. Jonathan, I think you're 6'8" or 6'9". Is that right?
6'8", yeah.
Something like that, if I remember right. And I mean, these guys were undersized for sure, especially when you were playing teams like LSU. And I just will never forget it. I was about a 15, 16-year-old kid. It was one of my all-time favorite games that I ever got to go to in Rupp Arena. And I just wanted to share it with you because it's one of my highlight memories being in Rupp as a kid. I have a couple of more, but that's one of them.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I thought I would share it with you because it was one of your teams, and you were a part of that.
And if I remember correctly, that was around the time that Hank Gathers was playing.
That's correct.
Playing for Loyola Marymount. I think he died that same. What was it, 91, 90, something around there?
Not somewhere around there. Yeah, 90,
it was around that time that you graduated.
About the same time. Yeah.
Speaking of which, that's why I kind of want to go. You know, I know you played against teams in the SEC and whatnot. Who was one guy that stood out? You know, on an opposite team that you just, when you seen him play, you was like, dang, that kid is good.
Chris Jackson. He was better than Shaquille O'Neal in college. Shaquille was very raw.
I'm telling you, people forget about Chris Jackson.
He would pull up from 30 feet like it was nothing. You could be up on him. He 30
I'm
foot
telling you,
jumper like it was a
He
layup,
was
like it
Steph
was nothing.
Curry before Steph Curry.
That's exactly what he was. That's right. He was Steph Curry before
yes,
Steph Curry. 30-footer was
yes.
nothing for him.
And I got another question. Did you have to guard him?
I did a couple times. Yeah, yeah. I thought I was guarding him, but I wasn't guarding him. He shot it and made it.
Yeah, and he had this like crossover step back.
Yeah, yep.
That was just killer.
And
he
had
killer.
Tourette syndrome. So he was always, you couldn't see it on TV, but he was always shaking, which made it, you didn't know he was going to go left or right ever. I mean, he was just hard to guard.
Right.
Hard to guard.
Yeah, he did. And I honestly, when he was at LSU, I didn't know that he had Tourette's. I didn't find
we didn't
that
either
out
at the time.
until later
He was
on.
just a shaky dude. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, at the time, I don't think anybody really knew that until later on in the NBA. Yeah. Yeah,
he said he played better
when
without his
that came
medication,
out.
which made him shake. Yeah.
Yeah, because of course he changed his name and all that, in the NBA. But I'm telling you, Chris Jackson was one of the best college players I ever seen. I mean, he could light it up from anywhere.
Yep.
I got a quick question about Coach. I know we've heard stories about Pitino and whatnot, but what's one story you can tell, like, while you was there, the time you was there on Pitino, that it's kind of funny that you look back at now?
This is a family show, right? I mean, most of the stories, I mean, Pitino, they're not family stories because he wasn't a family guy with us. It was a very adult, grown man type of situation. Now we were kids, but we were treated like adults, and it was a very tough environment. It just was not. It wasn't easy. Like I said, the end result was good, and he taught us how to be men. But as far as being like a buddy or like a fatherly figure, that was not him at all. Not at all.
So what teammate do you have a real connection to even now? I mean, that you played with.
I have a good connection with several of the guys. And what's funny is that the person that I was probably the most antagonistic with when I played is somebody that's a friend now, Reggie Hansen, because we played a very similar position. We fought a lot in practice to the point where we pretty much hated each other as kids, hated each other with a capital H. Didn't speak for, 20 years. But as we got older and matured into our 40s, we became actually pretty good friends.
That's cool because, Reggie's a great ambassador for Kentucky. He lives down in Florida. He does a lot of he does coaching, and he's also does a lot of motivation stuff and stuff down in Florida now. But always still talking
you was
about
there
his
with
cats.
You was there with Feldhouse and Pelfrey, right?
Correct.
You was with them for a year, right? If I remember correctly.
No, we came in together. No.
Oh, did y'all come in together? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So let's get to the Mark Pope hire. So a few weeks ago, I thought maybe you were on the bus, the Mark Pope bus that's now famous, but I later found out that you had an invite and had something else to do and wasn't on the bus. Is that correct?
No, I could not attend. Yeah, I was out of town. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was there. I was there in spirit. What he did was an amazing thing symbolically because it brought us back together. I'm going to touch on something. I know you didn't ask me this, but I want to say this publicly because it's not a secret, or it shouldn't be a secret. And that is that, again, it's not a Rip Cal show. It's not a Rip Cal thing at all, but Cal was intentionally divisive when it came to his players and former UK players. And that was always an undercurrent thing that was there that built a lot of resentment. So when Mark, like I said, as the head coach, gathered players up on the bus, that was a symbolic thing to say that we're all going to be doing this together. It's not just me. It's not just my guys. It's all of us being Kentucky again, because before Caipari, that's how it always was. I mean, I knew guys when I played in the 80s, I knew guys that played at Kentucky in the 40s and 50s by name. I could call them. I knew Wawa Jones. I knew these guys. But when Cal came, I didn't know any of his guys, and that was intentional. And that's part of why what they became was not Kentucky. It was Cal University. And that's not who we are at all. Like I said, the thing that
Yeah.
Winston did with me, that's Kentucky basketball. That's who we are. We are a continuum. It's not one person. It's not one era. It's all of us, from guys who played for Rupp all the way to guys who are going to play tomorrow. It's all one thing. You can't have a divide. You can't be a divided house and be successful. That's what we became. We became a divided house because your former players are your best ambassadors. If we can't speak positively on what's going on over there, you don't really have a team. You've got an error. That's what you've got. What we had was a Calipari error, but he didn't want to fold that into Kentucky. He wanted to keep it separate and make it just about himself. That doesn't work here. That doesn't work.
And
that's what I was that's what we was kind of talking about, because I made a post and you said that a lot of the former players that played like you did, 80s in the early 90s, they just didn't feel welcome.
Absolutely not. No, we're not welcome. That's correct.
Arena or anything.
Yes. I thought it was just me at first. Again, like I said, I'm not anybody famous. I'm just a guy who played for 4 years and got my degree and then left. So I thought, well, I'm nobody. It's just me. But I started talking to some other guys and I found out it wasn't just me. It was some big name guys also who were not welcome in the UK. Not because they done anything, but because they weren't Cal guys. They weren't, like I said, they weren't some of these guys.
And I have since found out that a lot of you guys, you've never met the John Walls, the Devin Bookers, not just that you wasn't there or wasn't invited. Like, I think a lot of you guys don't even know a lot of Calipari's players, which is a shame. I mean, really.
I'd live 5 minutes from campus, have lived in this house for 28 years, 5 minutes from campus. I've gone over there multiple times to offer myself as a mentor, a connection. These kids are far from home. They don't have anybody hardly around that looks like them, that's been here. Nothing, crickets, nothing. And like I said, I thought it was just me. It wasn't just me.
Right.
Well, and two, I got to meet, I think it was a while back. It was before I got on this podcast. I got to meet Rodney Dent. Mm-hmm. And he had mentioned to me a couple of times that he just felt like he was kind of avoided.
Yep.
And Rodney Dent, if people don't know, was part of the 93 Final Four team with Jamal Mashburn.
Yep.
I mean, some of these guys they was in some teams that was really good for Coach Pitino.
I know.
And you're pushing these other guys out for these other. That's a problem to me.
It's a big enough tent where we can all be under it.
Yeah, exactly.
He wasn't about that at all.
Well, I mean, I think that, Jonathan, I feel like that's what made Kentucky special.
That is
all those years. You know what I mean? Like you talking about.
Why would I know Wawa Jones?
Right, that's what I'm talking about. You're talking about Wawa Jones and Ralph Beard, and
right.
I
knew all those guys. I know them. Yeah. I knew them. Yeah, that's what Kentucky's about.
And you were there 40 years later from their team, from the 48
right.
team.
That's right.
Yeah.
I can call Dan Issel right now. Dan Issel played college ball. My father played in college.
He
played against my
Issel
father.
was there in 1970, which is 18 years.
That's right.
Right. Before Jonathan was there. So, I mean, what made Kentucky special was the family traditions and everything that was special to not just the players, but the fans.
Right.
I mean, and pulling all of that together and keeping our history known and knowing each other and players and so I mean, for Cal to find out really that that all of that was kind of separated under Calipari was a little bit, I mean, I guess I kind of knew it, but I didn't know it to that kind of detail, I guess.
Yeah. When he won the championship, when we were really rolling at the very beginning and one and done, it was easier to hide because, like, when you win a championship, you can get away with a lot of stuff. But when you stop winning big, people start looking a lot closer at a lot of things. Like, oh, wait a minute, this didn't look right at all. To the point where if he hadn't left this year, he would have gotten fired next year.
Yeah. Oh, I honestly, I couldn't believe that he didn't get fired this year.
That's why he left. They gave him the come to Jesus meeting. You got to produce or you're out.
Well,
Right.
and I say that to say this too, Jonathan. You know, when you lose the fan base,
Yep.
now you can lose the players. That's one thing.
That's
You can
right.
lose-
That's right.
you can
But
lose
when the
former
fans stop
players.
coming and they
But when
stop
the
putting butts in the
fans-
seats, you got the boosters. You lose.
And
You got a problem
especially
now. You got a
especially
problem.
BBN,
Yep.
especially
Boosters stop. That means
That's
something
right.
too.
They stop contributing, and the
Absolutely.
fans stop. The
Yeah.
fans stop believing in it. Yep.
Yeah, and that's another thing that was really hurting Calipari is there was a lot of boosters that were stopping,
Mhm.
and that hurt him as well.
Yep.
But I wanted to get and ask you not only what Pope is doing, but let's talk about the roster for a minute. How do you feel about the roster that he's putting together, and the things looking forward to next year with Mark Pope?
That's a two-part question. I'm going to answer the first part first, and that is how I feel about the roster. And that is my whole thing about the roster is I'm going to trust Coach Pope. I don't know anything about these kids. I haven't seen any. I've seen them play a little bit, but I don't know them well enough to be able to say I've evaluated this kid. He's better than that kid. I don't know enough about that part of it. So I'm going to trust him that he's got the right kids on board for us to be able to put a product out there that's going to get us in the right direction. As far as next year, I'm excited about, like I said, getting back to being Kentucky. It won't happen overnight. I'm not expecting him to win a championship, next year or even the year after that. But I do expect to see us get back to who we were, which is being Kentucky. And we haven't been Kentucky in a long time. I can't tell you what it looks like. I know it when I see it. I ain't seen it in a long time. But I know, it when you see it. You know it when you see it. You just know. You don't have five guys out there doing
I
whatever.
agree with you.
They're just out there for themselves.
I
trying to
haven't
get a pro
seen it.
contract.
I haven't
That's
seen
all
it
they
in
were
a long
doing for
time either.
the last 10 years. That's not basketball.
See,
Yeah.
here's the thing
I
I
haven't
tell people
a long time
about
either.
about the NBA. There's nothing wrong with going and making a thing for yourself and helping your family. It's how, not to get on back on Caipari, but not to harp on him a little bit, but it's how he approached it. That's all it was. It was not about Kentucky. It was about I'm sending you the NBA. I'm doing this. It wasn't about the name on the front of the jersey, which I get kids nowadays. It's a different generation, different era. They're wanting the money, which it's not a bad thing. But at the same time, you got to have a little bit of that tradition left in there too.
That's exactly
That
right.
says,
It's gotta be balanced.
I can play for the name of Kentucky and still go to the NBA.
Right. We've always had kids go to the NBA from Kentucky. That's not that wasn't any big deal for us. I get, like I said, the one and done thing was obviously something new. But a kid coming to Kentucky and playing well and going to the NBA, what's surprising about that? That didn't impress me. If you get your chance at Kentucky, you do well, you're gonna get your chance in the NBA. That's how it works.
Because Kentucky's going to sell.
That's exactly right. Kentucky will sell. It will sell.
Well, and I mean, you go all the way back to, like you said, some of the guys from the 40s and 50s. And I mean, all these guys, played. Look at Frank Ramsey winning championships with the Celtics in the 50s.
Yep.
I mean, Kentucky's always had players in the NBA.
Always had players. That's right.
Yeah.
We've had a few down years here and there, but for the most part, we've always had players. We're always going to have players.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you on that. So
Yep.
before we, let you go, I do have to ask you, because part of what we were talking about 3 weeks ago
I
was
remember
some
now.
DeMarcus Cousins. Yeah.
I remember now.
I have to ask you, Jonathan, at least before we get off, before I let you go anyway. But so about 3 weeks ago, when Pope was hired, there was some comments by DeMarcus Cousins, a Calipari player who I love. Listen, I'm not going to say
I do
at
too.
the time he played, I loved DeMarcus Cousins. I still do the call me thing. I love DeMarcus Cousins. So I am not in any way, shape, or form acting like I don't, because I do. But he made some comments that was just really, really, I don't even know. It was almost Kentucky uneducated.
Ignorance. Just
If
say
you
it. It was
ask
out
me.
of ignorance. He did. You know what? And I'm going to take up for the kid a little bit here. He didn't know. In his defense, he didn't. He doesn't know who Kentucky is because his coach never taught him that, or allowed him to be
It's
around
funny.
people who could have exposed him to that. He actually thought that when he got to Kentucky, that's where Kentucky started. He didn't realize we
I
did it for
know.
125 years before he got here. We've been doing this for 125 years. He had
Well,
no idea that
Yes.
we were great before Cal ever showed up. Not good, not on the way up. We were great before any of those guys ever showed up. To say that is ignorant.
the,
Ignorant.
the thing that really bothered
We were
me,
great before Cal was born.
That's right.
the thing
right.
that really bothered me
Yes.
about that comment though, was when he said that Kentucky would not be on TV anymore. Like Kentucky was just going to fall off the map. Like, and then he said Arkansas will be the new hotspot, which it will be a hotspot for Caipari and players. But it's like Kentucky.
It's never going to be Kentucky. Arkansas will never be Kentucky. Mark my words.
No.
I'm
no.
on the record as
They
saying
won't.
that. Even if they win a championship, you
I
know
agree
what?
with you.
Even if they win a championship, they're still Arkansas, and we're still Kentucky. I don't care.
Yep.
They're not Kentucky. They're 50 years behind us. They can't catch up. They're Arkansas.
There's no way.
Who
They're-
cares?
They're 70.
Who
They're 70
cares?
years behind.
Who cares?
I mean, honestly.
They're Arkansas. Next
You remind me a little bit of me, Jonathan. You just tell it like it is. Man.
It's not.
You don't care who
Hey,
you.
they're not Arkansas anymore.
We take on all
They're
comers
not
around here,
Arkansas
baby. We don't
anymore.
care who
It's
you are.
Calipari University. It's
We don't care.
Calipari University. Remember?
That's right.
Which, listen, I'm not making fun. It is a, you know, I've told John this, who, you know, because John wants to get into it with some of these fans. And if the tables were turned and we were getting a Hall of Fame coach, you know, and we were Arkansas, not Kentucky, if we were Arkansas, if the tables were turned and we were getting a Hall of Fame coach, you know, with maybe 5, 6, 8 years left at the most, we would probably be excited if we were in Arkansas's shoes.
Right. That's right. We would.
You know what I mean?
What is
You know,
Saban
so
came to Kentucky
you
for
can't.
football?
Yeah,
Saban came here for football.
you can't blame
Something like
them
that.
for being excited about getting Calipari as a coach.
Sure.
And being hopeful and thinking that he's going to get all this talent, because Kentucky fans for the last 15 years, maybe not the last 3, but 12 of those 15 years, Kentucky fans were falling for that exact same stuff and excited about those 5-star kids every single year. So you can't expect Arkansas not to fall for the same stuff.
I'll say this about the whole Arkansas Kentucky thing. I think where a lot of Arkansas fans are coming from is how we felt when we hired Cal in, what was it, 09, 10? It's something new. It's something fresh. It feels like that they're turning a corner, and you know, that's okay to do. But we had him for 15 years. They've had him for 3 weeks. And we've seen what he can do and what he can't do.
Right.
And to think that we're that dull to not see what's going on is just ignorance to me.
Yep.
But can he change? Yes. He's had to adapt to the portal. He's had to do some things. He had no choice.
Right.
Because his freshman was not now he gets good freshmen. I'm not going to deny that. He's got good recruitment, but freshmen don't win anymore.
Bingo.
Experience wins now.
Yep.
You got to have 4 and 5 guys in the tournament to win. Look at UConn. UConn had they had a couple of good freshmen and they had 3 or 4 guys that were experienced guys and older players. That's what it takes to win now. And I think that's what he's going to have to motivate to. Because freshmen just don't win like they used to. It's a different game and a different era now.
I mean, I'm not even exactly sure that freshmen ever did dominate.
Maybe not dominate.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't think freshmen ever did dominate college basketball.
we've got a few examples here and there, but generational type players. I mean, you had, Carmelo Anthony was a one and done, led a team to championship. That's one I can think of, but I can't think of many others
Right.
that
Anthony
have gone to
Davis
a
was one.
championship. Anthony Davis,
we
you
had
got a few here
Davis.
and there, but for the most part, I mean, you can't bank on winning.
Yeah.
You can win games with freshmen, but it's hard to win a championship because again, when it comes to leadership, you want a leader who's been there and done that. If you're a freshman, you haven't been there, you haven't done anything.
Yep.
We got two guards that are going to go top 5 in the NBA,
Yep.
and they went in their very first NCAA game. They both laid an egg. It's like, what do we do out here? They haven't been there and done that. Now, if they had to come back next year,
they both look like,
it'd been fine.
exactly. They both
It was
look
their
like
very first time on the big stage. They both laid an egg. It
And
happens,
probably,
man. It happens.
we can look back and say the Fab Five
They're
from
top
Michigan.
five. They're top 5
Absolutely,
talent.
Jonathan.
They're top
I
5
said it
talent.
on this show.
Top 5 talent.
Yep. And I will say this
They are.
too: the Fab Five from Michigan was another group
Absolutely.
that was a
Same
bunch of
thing.
freshmen,
Yep.
but they only got to a Final Four and they never did win it.
That's right. They didn't win it. That's right.
But they
But
did get there.
on the biggest stage, they failed.
That's right.
Yeah.
Chris Webber.
Down the
Chris
stretch,
Webber,
called timeout. They had no timeout. That's right.
It's
Chris
never
Webber
been easy.
That's a freshman mistake.
Mhm.
Yeah. Absolutely. 100% it is. You're 100% right on that, Jonathan.
Yep.
So I don't think freshmen have ever really dominated college basketball. Even if you go all the way back, I mean, freshmen started playing sometime in the mid 70s or so when freshmen became eligible. Before that, freshmen didn't even get to play. So they had to sit out that year before that.
That's kind of why I wanted
and-
you on this show. I wanted you on this show because the thing is that back when you played, it actually meant something to stay 4 years and get a degree.
Yep.
And now it's the kid. Things have changed. The era's changed. The game of basketball's changed. But that's what I love most. Well, you had Mashburn leave early after 2 years, but overall in the 90s, you had guys stay 4 years unless you was a
Mashburn played
really
3 years.
3 years. That's right.
He wanted to come back. Rick made him go pro. Got to go, son. You're a first round draft pick. Go take care of your family. He didn't want to leave either. He loved it here.
Yeah, Mash played 3 years.
But back then,
Yeah,
it was the really good
Right.
pro guys. Like
Yeah.
if you weren't in a top 15, 20 pick, you stayed in school. And that's what I loved about it. It was a different time, but it's a different era now, and we're just going to have to get used to this whole new NIL.
Jordan
stuff.
stayed in school 3 years.
Yep.
Yep.
Different world.
Different world.
Yeah, I
we're
mean,
living in
Michael
now.
Jordan stayed in school 3 years. So James,
The quality of the college game was much better then too, because again, with all these freshmen and people
Worthy.
coming and going, you can't really put together. It's hard to put together a program where you know that a kid's going to do a certain thing for you for 2 or 3 or 4 years. Every year you have to rebuild your roster, which makes the quality of the product go down. That's why the girls game is more fun than watching the boys, because you're seeing
it
more.
is. It's so much. I'm
consistency.
covering the
Seeing
women's
3
game
and 4
right
year
now, and
players
it's so
develop.
much more fun.
They're developing in the girls'
Yeah.
game. In the boys' game, the really good players only play 1 year and they're gone.
Mhm.
Do you think Mark Pope will have a few players that stay and stick around, for 2 or 3 years and build some of that team atmosphere?
I think because of the kind of kids he's going to get, I don't see him going after and getting 5-star players every year. I don't think it's going to be his MO. He's going to be mostly getting kids who maybe went to a smaller level out of college, and now they're trying to jump up to a play at Kentucky. Those kids, if he can get them as sophomores, they can stay around for 2 or 3 years. That's what I think it's going to look like.
Right.
And also, if I'm not mistaken, he's got a couple of kids that are Kentucky kids that had signed with other schools. They're looking to come back. I think the kid that went to South Carolina got his letter,
Right.
and the kid that went to, I think, Mississippi State,
Yep.
that's from the mountains as well. Those kids are probably going to try to come home. I don't think they're one and done players. I mean, I haven't seen them play, but if you're a 4-star, the NBA is not looking for you right now. If you're a 5-star, it's different. It just is what it is. But look at Reed. But here's the thing: look at a kid like Reed.
Right.
Reed wasn't a 5-star. I mean, he was a good player out of high school, but who would have thought he'd be a top 5 player? The best player on the team out of high school is coming back to college. That was DJ Wagner. Everybody thought he was going to be a world beater, a savior.
Yeah.
And he had a pretty,
Oh, yeah.
you know what he had? He had a decent freshman year is what he had. He was a freshman. He played like a freshman. He didn't play like a superstar. He was up and down all year long, you know?
Yeah.
But Reed had a phenomenal year.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, he's off to the NBA. It happens. You know, so that being said, I think you're going to see more kids stay around for at least 2 or 3 years. Will they all stay 4 years? That's unrealistic. But you're going to see more kids come back and have some kind of a career as opposed to just a revolving door. Every year, it's 5, 6 new players. I don't think we're going to see that. I think we're going to see a bit more stability, you know, under the new regime.
Yeah,
I'm okay with that.
Either more like 9 or 10. Next year, probably be 5 or 6. But after that, I think you'll start seeing, 3 or 4 come back. Maybe we recruit 3. Maybe he picks up 3 or 4 in the portal, and that kind of stuff is kind of what I think we'll see.
Sure. And if you have a year where you have a bunch of kids that are really good, you can't be mad if you got 5 5-star players. You can't be mad if they all go. But I think the kind of player he gets, he's going to be going after a player that's really more geared towards a good fit for the program as opposed to is this kid on his way to the NBA. And that's what I think we've gotten away from, is that we were so focused the last few years on is he NBA quality. We were recruiting from the McDonald's All-American, roster sheet, as opposed to can this kid help this program get to the next level? Can he help us win ball games? That's not been the MO for a long time. He didn't care if he can help us win ball games or not. It was, can he get to the NBA?
Right.
I'm going to polish him off, go to the NBA and make my resume bigger. And we became an NBA way station as opposed to being Kentucky basketball. I didn't like that one bit.
I kind of laugh at it a little bit that we was getting Burger Boys. Now we're getting Arby guys.
Yeah,
like we're getting the Arby's now.
There you go.
And there's nothing wrong with getting Arby guys.
They're going to win the championship. We're going to win championships with those guys.
Yeah, I mean,
they're going to be around as sophomores and juniors. They're going to win championships.
Yeah.
So, Jonathan, I know you're in the banking world. If I done a little bit of research on you, and you've been doing in the banking world now for a lot of years, 20, 30 years. I don't know exactly, but people in Lexington may know you just from the banking world and may not even realize that you're an ex-Wildcat. I'm not sure.
You know what's funny? I don't lead with it. So if they don't,
do you ever run into that?
You know what? I do on occasion. I do meet people that are not really from around here that moved here for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And they don't know that I played ball for UK. I don't bring it up, and it's funny. They'll realize it later. They'll be like, I didn't even play ball for UK. I'm like, yeah, I did as a kid, but it was something. But I don't lead with that. It's not my profession anymore, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, it happens.
Yeah. But see, here's the thing.
I just thought I'd ask you about it.
You know, a lot of the former players are forgotten about. And I say this to say this, you get all these current guys on these podcasts, and not saying ours, just podcasts in general, different media outlets. And a lot of these former players like you and Jamal Mashburn and, Rex Chat, they're all forgotten about because they paved the way. You all paved the way for Kentucky basketball and the game of basketball. And I think we need to start giving back to those guys that do that. And I think they should be more recognized in the media outlets in the world. And I think that is a big deal because some of those guys need to be recognized.
I appreciate that. And I'm not doing this for any kind of personal recognition, but I believe.
I know. I'm just saying in general.
Yes. I believe in what we are as an institution as far as Kentucky basketball, what we represent and what we are all about. That's what I'm here for. It's not about me personally. It's about all of us. And I'm a big believer in this is a big tent type of an operation that, like you said, more guys, should be involved in this and should be given their just due. Like you said, how in the world can a Rex Chapman or Jamal Mashburn be forgotten about? These guys are still alive. They're still around here. These guys, like you said, what we're doing today was built on the backs of guys like that. I mean, why are they, forgotten about it? That doesn't make any sense to me at all. And they do deserve their just due. As a matter of fact, to the point where I was talking earlier about a player that I did not get along with when we played when we were kids, but this is a person that doesn't get his just due, and that's Reggie Hansen. The year that all the other players left, and the ones that stayed, he was the best of the players that stayed. Now oh gosh darn it, the four kids that graduated after him, the Unforgettables. They've gotten some accolades, but check this out though. You can ask the Unforgettables this. Reggie Hansen is the glue that held us together. End of statement. There should be
he was the best player. He was
award. I'm telling you this, and I've said this to people at UK. They haven't done it yet, but there needs to be. I'm telling you, we're not Kentucky right now without Reggie Hansen. End of statement. He's bigger than the Unforgettables when it comes to what made us us and why we're able to hold it together. 14-14 was a miracle, but we didn't have enough players to even practice with. But he held us together with tape and glue, literally.
Absolutely.
It was not us. It was just him. And I hated that guy, but I respect what he did. Hated him with a passion, but I respect him.
So Reggie Hansen, if you hear this,
held it together by himself.
If you hear this, you are respected and appreciated.
Absolutely.
If you can help me get Reggie Hansen on this show, I would be amazing.
I'll call him. I will.
Yeah, because I would love to have Reggie on the show. He was one of my absolute favorites at that time. I know that, like you said, the Unforgettables, and a lot of people talk about them, and rightfully so, because they were part of that team as far as everything else. But I'm telling you, Reggie Hansen, like I said, I will never forget him getting the tap over Shaquille O'Neal in that game in 1991 or 90, might have been December, I'm not sure, but in 90-91 season.
I got a quick question real quick before.
And us beating LSU.
I got a quick question before we let you go, Jonathan. What was it like seeing Shaq out there? Like, I know everybody talks about, Shaq back in the day, but what was it like actually seeing him on that floor, like in person, like live on there? Was it?
I'm going to share this quick story with you. You guys might have seen this clip, but maybe you haven't. But anyway, there was a game we played at LSU. It was the same year that we beat them at home. We went down there first earlier in the year, and we played them down there. I caught the ball on the wing, and Shaq was guarding me. He's so big, I couldn't get the ball around him. And I saw Richie Farmer couldn't hit the basket. Had to pass the ball between Shaq's legs. It's a clip. I've seen it on ESPN when they show the classics. Had to throw it through his legs because he was so daggone big for an easy layup to Richie Farmer. But my point is this: he's just a massive human being. He's just so big and so athletic for that size.
Yeah.
Who pretty much
at that time he was slender and athletic as all.
Yes.
Who pretty much ended up having
most people
pretty amazing career in the NBA.
People remember Shaq as a big guy.
Right.
But
big guy.
At that time, when he was in college in his first couple of 2 or 3 years.
Yes. Very athletic. Very athletic. Could not pass around. Had a pass
he was 7'1" and still weighed like 280.
Yeah, it was 280, 290. Yeah.
But I'm telling you, he ran like a deer. He wasn't this Shaq that weighed 300 pounds.
He would dribble the basketball. He would do his own fast, one-man fast break. Get the rebound, turn and go with the ball. Yeah. Great athlete.
Yeah. He was amazing.
Yep.
But I still say you're right. At that time, Chris Jackson was the better player.
Chris Jackson was the best player on that team. Not even close.
Yeah. I feel like that too, man. That's a good statement. So, Jonathan, we really appreciate you being with us.
I got one more real quick.
Just message me or whatever. But seriously,
I got one more question. I got more.
Have Reggie Hansen on the show.
I got one more question, Brad. So Jonathan, I know that you knew Kaywood over the years. Kaywood Ledford.
Yeah.
What was your feeling about Kaywood? Like,
I love K Wood. He's a great guy. He was a fantastic human being. I mean, spent many days or evenings, I should say, after ball games. He would ride the bus with us to and from a lot of the games. So he'd sit back there smoking a cigarette. You can't smoke on buses with kids anymore. Back in those days, you could smoke around kids. So he's puffing away and telling me all about life back there. I mean, just a super nice guy. And another interesting little anecdote about K Wood is that my first wife is from the mountains, and she grew up next door to K Wood. She would cut his grass. You know, she had the same stories about him, that he was just a super nice guy, just a nice old man, sweet as he can be.
Too bad we couldn't beat Duke in the 92 game.
Yeah, it would have been great. Great way to send him out.
Going out party.
Yep, we had him.
Yeah, that would have been fantastic. We actually should have won that title because we beat the best team in the country, if you ask me.
Yep.
And
I mean,
and Christian Leitner hits that shot, and unfortunately, he's been a demon in our possession.
Listen, I have always said. Wait a second. I have always said, and I had it on tape, and I used to watch it back. If there would have been replay back then, that shot does not count. It was in his fingertips when the clock said 0.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, that shot would not count if there was replay. I have said it all my life, and I will keep saying it.
Your hatred for Duke's coming out, Greg.
Right.
I'm telling you, you can mark it down. If there was replay, there would be no Christian Leitner shot. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, guys, thank you again. I
we appreciate you being with us. We're going to let you go, and then me and John are going to wrap things up. But I appreciate you being with us. You've been with us about an hour tonight, and we appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining College Sportscast.
Thank you so much, Jonathan.
You have a good night.
You too, man.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
That was a good show, by the way.
All right, guys. I know that we had a bunch of people in with our comments and stuff, and normally I try to go through. When I have a special guest like that, it's kind of to butt in and mention stuff and ask questions, and I try to let them talk as much as I can. So, but I hope you guys will enjoy the show, and I just want to give everybody a shout out that's joined us tonight. I know there's been a bunch of you guys in the comments, so I appreciate you being with us.
All I'm going to say is, real quick, before we get out of here, Trent Noah, you are a Kentucky Wildcat. Come join the Big Blue Nation, because I think this would be great for the.
I do want to bring up. All right.
I
do too with Trent. I mean, honestly,
great for the county of Harlan and bringing a kid like that in. Kaywood Ledford country, by the way. That's Kaywood Ledford country. Harlan, Kentucky.
Yep.
So,
absolutely. I do have one thing from today that I want to bring up that's probably not going to be very well received from Kentucky fans. It doesn't have to do with Trent Noah. It has to do with Gavin Wimsatt. Gavin Wimsatt committed to Kentucky today. It's great. He's a Kentucky native. He was a 4-star quarterback. He went to Rutgers. I get all of that. I kind of feel like that Stoops and Morrow sometimes over-recruit a position. And I kind of is over-recruit a position. And I just want to say,
you're freezing up a little bit.
We've got a 5-star quarterback that's got 2 years left. We got 4-star Cutter Boley. We brought in Bo Allen. And we've got 2 nearly 4-star, high 3-star quarterbacks committed for next year. 2 of them. That's 5. Now, today you bring in Gavin Wimsatt from Owensboro, Kentucky guy. I get it. But that's 6 quarterbacks that's supposed to be on the roster for next year.
Well, I think a lot of that too is the fact that he's wanting some depth behind Brock Vanderdrift. It might not be for next year, or not this year coming, but next
Following
year,
you.
the following year. But I think he's just using that for depth in case Brock goes down or somebody gets hurt, because you have that insurance that
Isn't that
it
the
can
reason
step
why
right
you
in.
brought Wellen?
I couldn't hear you.
I mean, you got a 4-star Cutter Boley. I'm just afraid that this is the reason why a guy like Cutter Boley is going to bolt. Why stick around if you're going to continue to bring in these quarterbacks? I mean, I feel like they over recruit positions a lot.
Well, and I think too, everybody got the consensus that Cutter Boley was going to redshirt this year anyway. So he was basically going to be a redshirt anyways.
Well, he probably is this year
because of Brock Vanderdrift. But I do agree with you ways though. I think they overvalue certain positions. Quarterback's one of them. Sometimes wide receivers is another one.
The running backs, they went after these running backs. They didn't get one of them, but there's 2 4-star running backs that were freshmen and are now a redshirt freshman, and they keep bringing these guys in and trying to, and I feel like they're over recruiting. Let these guys come in and eat. They're 4-star guys.
Yeah.
You got, there's 2 of them sitting there.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I mean, I want to see these guys play. I mean, I want to see these guys succeed. They're 4-star blue chippers. I want to see them play.
And I think, too, on that side of the things, like they do the running backs and the quarterbacks that way, too. But sometimes on the defensive side of the ball, they have some of the same issues because they get a lot of guys that go into the portal a year or 2 later and they're stuck without some cornerbacks and safeties in the room. Like that's why they went out and got Waller from Michigan. They had some pieces that they need to click together. So I agree with you, though. I mean, I like what Stoops and Marrow's doing, but sometimes they overvalue certain positions and they don't need to. I think the last couple of years they've went through the portal at the quarterback position, which I think they need to develop a quarterback at some point, like Cutter, Stone
How
Saunders.
are you going to develop a quarterback if you keep bringing these guys in? They're going to bolt.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't know really what they're trying to do, but I guess they know more than I do because they're getting paid the big bucks.
I don't know. Like I said, they got 2 guys that are high 3-star guys. One of them could be a 4-star before it's over with, at least. They're committed. Not signed yet because they're for the following year. But I mean, I'm not exactly sure why you go after. I don't know why you need, not this coming year, but next year, why you need 6 quarterbacks on the roster. I'm just not sure.
But
do you feel like that one of those guys will decommit because of this?
I feel like one of them will, but it might not be who everybody thinks it will be. I think he'll keep Cutter Boley. I think he'll keep Stone Saunders. It might be a few other guys that bolt. You'll probably see the Bo Allen and a couple other guys leave maybe again. But that's just me. I don't know. I don't know what they're trying to do at the quarterback position.
Do you blame guys for leaving when they keep bringing in guys like that? Because I don't.
Nah, I mean, That's a good question to ask. So just because they
mean-
make the big bucks doesn't mean they know what they are doing.
And I'm not slandering Gavin at all. He is an Owensboro kid. He is a Kentucky kid. I get it. He was a 4-star quarterback coming out of high school and chose not to go with us and went to Rutgers. But he just got beat out in the spring.
No, I don't think Brock's leaving, Mike. Brock is the main guy right now. I don't look for Brock Vanderdrift.
About dropping one of these commits. I was talking about dropping one of these commits or dropping Cutter Boley next year because the writing might be on the wall. After he redshirts this year, he's probably going to redshirt. But if he shows up for spring ball next year and they're bringing in quarterbacks, I mean, he's a 4-star talent that should be able to play.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I mean, so for me as a player, that's concerning if you ask me. But I don't know. I'm just a guy. What do I know? I'm not a coach. I just thought we'd bring it up and talk about it real quick. And I know everybody that today is kind of all over the Trent Noah news, and I get it. I mean, it would be great to have him join and be part of the freshman class with Chandler and with Travis Perry and Trent Noah. That would be a great start for 3 guys.
And probably, especially with Trent Noah and Travis Perry, you're probably going to get 2 to 3 years out of these kids. It's not going to be like a one and done type thing. You're going to get a couple of years out of these kids. So it's
that's what I say. Maybe you get 2 or 3 years out of these kids.
Yep.
Yep, absolutely. Hey guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the show. I hope you guys enjoyed Johnathon being with us. We are going to try to have some former players and stuff more often. We had Valerie Steele last month, and we also had Emma King last month on the show as well. So we are going to try to mix in some women and some former men players and try to have some on from time to time, at least once or twice a month, and do that for you guys. So that's something to look forward to.
And I'd like to say something real quick while we're on here. I just want to say thank you to everybody that showed appreciation to Brad's nephew for putting in a donation. I just felt like that needed to be said. I don't know the whole specifics. Don't want to give too much information out. I just know that he's sick and he needs a lot of prayers and just a lot of encouragement. And his name is Kale. So that's Brad's sister's child. It's
my nephew.
It's his nephew. So
I appreciate it. I did post something about it yesterday. So if you guys are following us, you guys probably know now. But it's been a rough week. I've been swamped with a couple of things. It's been a rough week. I did get to see my sister, and she's taking it really bad. and his dad, and I haven't. Well, I better not say that, but there's a little bit more to all of this story, and if I said it out, everybody would kind of gravitate to that probably. So, there is a lot to all this. He's a 14-year-old kid with a lot of talent. I mean, a lot of talent. He plays lacrosse and football and basketball. And I will tell this story real quick. For basketball game against one of the teams in the region in Cincinnati. He lives in Cincinnati. We're not talking about a bunch of scrubs, okay? He led his team, scored 20 points. He's an 8th grader and led his team to victory over one of the best teams in the region in basketball. And 4 days later, after the game, he told his dad that he couldn't feel his legs. And he had been having some back issues and some problems, and they took him for some tests, and that's how they kind of found all this. But I just want to put it like this: kid is a special, special talent, and it's kind of hard to take in. This has been a rough week, so I don't really talk about personal stuff a lot. You guys probably know that, but any support and prayers would definitely be welcome. So,
Yep.
I'll just leave it at that. Kale Zerker is his name. He does have a GoFundMe account. If anybody wants to support him, I will try to get that out. There's some T-shirts as well. The T-shirts, all of that money does not go to him. There's just a portion of that money goes to the family. But the GoFundMe, they get all of it. So if you $10, they get all $10. The T-shirts, they only get a small percentage of that. So, but I appreciate it, guys. I appreciate you guys being with us. I'm glad you enjoyed the show. John, appreciate you, man. You kind of let me have a week off, really. We haven't done a show since last Tuesday.
And two,
so
and for people that don't know, we had talked about this earlier. There's going to be a part in July where we're going to be off maybe almost the whole month. So up until
we'll do some stuff around the SEC football media days in July.
Then after that,
will probably be a lot of it
till at least August.
Yeah.
So
yeah, guys, and we will start a new season around the end of July, 1st of August. We will start a new season and do our previews, conference previews for football and that kind of stuff. We will start a new season around that time. So I appreciate it, guys. You guys have a great night, and we will see you later this week. I'm not planning on going a whole week without doing a show again. So we'll see you guys in a few days.
Yeah, have a good one.